Hey friends, it's Ernie here from Trader of Futures, and I just was watching this live, I guess you could call it a conference of the central bankers at the Peterson Institute of Economics. I know that that sounds incredibly fascinating and exciting, right? It could be further from the truth. I mean, it was just basically a not only a lie fest, but also it became very apparent that either they're covering up what they're doing or covering up their malfeasance, or they simply just don't know what they're doing. And that became very apparent as I got deeper and deeper into this conference. And then they started talking about the tools that they have to help stave off an overheated economy, or to try to prop up an underperforming economy. And of course, you know, their central mission is to keep inflation under control and maintain a healthy employment rate. And, you know, all of this is kind of dictated. It's a kind of an inverse relationship by something called the Phillips curve. And so they're getting all these, and on the panel, there are people like Ben Bernanke and Brainerd and Draghi and other central bankers. And in the audience is a number of people from the Peterson Institute, including Larry Summers, who was asking some pointed questions. I mean, they're all basically softball questions that they're getting. And, you know, they're there to try to, quote, rethink macroeconomic policy. So essentially what they're saying is that they really have no friggin' idea what macroeconomic policy is or should be, or how they should affect it, even though they have all these wonderful tools that they talk about, like quantitative easing, which, you know, is kind of a basket of tools, including buying treasury bonds to help you know, elevate long-term yields, or buying corporate bonds to help, you know, narrow the spread in yields, or to buy a number of different type of assets like mortgage securities and other things to tend to, you know, to kind of lift up those markets. And so they've tried all this stuff, and still they're in this incredible quandary about why, with low interest rates, we're not seeing any, you know, heightened economic activity. They said, all these people are at work. They're working. They're making money. And they should be spending, and inflation should be going up. There should be more, you know, it's a tight labor market, they say. So, you know, it's hard to find the right people to put in the right jobs. So shouldn't that then increase salaries? But it's not. You know, and the fundamental thing that they're missing out of all of this is that they have no, I mean, they are so high up in their ivory towers, they have absolutely no idea what it's like to be an average person, you know? And they don't see, you know, the way they measure inflation, the way they measure unemployment, it's a farce. To say that they're using this data and then this theory behind, you know, the Phillips curve to try to, you know, balance out inflation with employment, and then that's all they've got to do, is just incredible. Of course, they mentioned that there are other factors that are involved in here, and they're well aware of them. If they're so well aware of them, then why don't they push the right buttons and make it work? It's kind of a rhetorical question. You know, there's something else going on here. It's either they are intentionally driving the economy to the brink of disaster, and with, you know, some other nefarious mean. Of course, you know, this is a kind of a conspiracy theory, and that would take a lot of different things to come together for me to, you know, to go down that route. Or they are just completely incompetent. I think that's actually, you know, the truth lies somewhere in the middle there. It's a level of incompetence with trying to maintain control and to satisfy their ids and their egos, and to pump their chest and to show that, you know, how capable and in control they are. But, you know, I don't know where to go with this. You know, I can go down and talk about this rant and well, or rave about, you know, their incompetence, and say, well, what is the answer to all of this? The answer, in my view, is basically the same answer that we have with incompetent political leaders here, and that's to get rid of them. You know, they say, well, how can you do that? They're the bankers. They control everything. We are their slaves. Is that really true? In this conference, they're talking about. They were also talking about using, you know, how money, worthless paper fiat, is somehow a store of value, and they were very impressed with how the Swiss can have these 1,000 Swiss notes, and you know how so, you know, how such a small space can hold such a huge store of value. And I'm thinking, store of value. Okay, so you got a bank full of paper. That's value. And then they're going on about the realization that they are eventually going to a digital currency, a digital currency economy, and that how when they go that route, and this was a kicker, that it's going to be much easier to implement negative rates, as if negative rates is the answer. Again, because of their incompetence. You know, what they don't understand is that they're trying to fix things is precisely the reason why things suck. It's so plain to see. If you go back and look at history, the lead up to every single recession in our history has been preceded by a program of accommodative easing, quantitative easing, or you know, the Fed getting involved in trying to fix things. Every single recession. And that particularly, you know, what that results in typically is this kind of, you know, changing of the yield curve, changing a distortion of long-term versus short-term rates, basically a flattening of the yield curve where people don't have confidence in long-term viability of the economy, and so the yield curve starts flattening. And every single recession is preceded by this event, and that situation is caused precisely by their trying to fix things. They can't fix things. You can't fix something you know nothing about. So, you know, okay, so you can go on and on about how bad these people are. Whether it's intentional or not, they're just bad. They're bad for all of us. But they're the people that are in power. There's nothing that we can do. We're kind of there. And we can choose to, you know, to go along with, you know, their way of doing things, I guess. Or we can try to separate ourselves and try the best we can to not participate in their economy. And to me, that is one of the potential goods that's coming out of cryptocurrencies. There's an opportunity for us to create a different economy and to be involved in a more decentralized way. I mean, they count on everything being central, everything coming through them. And now they're talking about going to a digital currency, but we know that they're not going to implement that in the same spirit that something like Bitcoin was created for. They're going to do something very different and nefarious. I doubt that it will be an open sourced project so that we can see what's going on under the hoods. They're going to still have their, you know, the tentacles coming into there, and then the buttons that they can push to change and you know, monitor, you know, basically change the way that digital currency behaves. There's no doubt in my mind that that's what it's going to be. The current cryptocurrencies that are out there, they don't have that. They are open source. They are completely transparent. And there's nothing more that threatens these central bankers, and that's transparency. So while they are claiming to go towards a digital currency or a digital economy, one that is, you know, I guess somehow equivalent to the current cryptocurrency movement that's going on right now, we know that it's going to be nothing like that. So the thing is, there's really nothing stopping them from us participating in this alternative economy, these alternative stores of value, or ways to actually do peer-to-peer transactions with our neighbors and our friends and our business associates. There's really nothing stopping us from doing that, and there's really no way for them to completely control that. Now, unless you live in a country that has complete and utter control over virtually every aspect of your life, like a communist country, like China, although they're finding that it's going to be very difficult even for them to contain cryptocurrency. So they've backed off on cryptos. A lot of people think that they've actually squashed the whole idea, but they haven't. They're stepping back so that they can then provide some kind of regulation. And then there will be that, but then there will also be this other gray market that will emerge, and it will eventually overtake the kind of control, the centralized control that they want. There's really no stopping it. There is no stopping it. When you have a decentralized country, a decentralized economy, a decentralized system, it is the most powerful thing that you could possibly imagine. There is no offense by a centralized bank to a decentralized economy. There is none. They are sitting there on an island by themselves. So that's why I'm spending much more time looking at cryptocurrencies, blockchain technologies, because I view that as the real future. I want to sidestep what the central banks are proposing and what our government is proposing, and just do it myself. Be independent, be free, and work with other people that want to be independent and free. That's true decentralization. That's the value, that's the thing that actually made our country great. Centralized control leads to tyranny, and that's what we have. We are on the brink of worldwide tyranny with these globalists. All these people on this Peterson Institute for Economics panel, they are the king globalists. They want to control every aspect of our lives because that's the only way that they feel that they can control or do what they think is the right thing to do, to keep things stable and to keep things moving and keep things flowing to them. I'm sure a lot of this is, tacit. You all understand it. You've heard it many times before. But, now is the time that we can start thinking about how we're going to fight this tyranny, how we can I don't even know that we have to fight it directly or face it face to face. I think we can sidestep it. We can participate in this new economy and start learning about it. And I'm going to talk a lot more about that in the future. Now, I'm a professional bonds trader, treasuries. I trade treasury futures. There are ways that we can make money off of their malfeasance. Now, one thing that I will say for the Fed is that they tend to be pretty consistent. In other words, when they institute monetary policy, whether it's good or bad for us, they tend to stay with it and follow it right down to the River Hades if they have to, and change it ever so slightly, because they know that if they start tweaking it a little bit too much, it can all blow up in their face, and that they'll lose control. They don't want to have that perception of losing control. But from a trader's or an investor's point of view, that sets up some things that make it very easy to make money off of bonds. And if you'd like to learn something about, some more about that, then, you can visit my channel, Trader of Futures, where I talk about that somewhat. But anyways, I'd like to, in future videos, I'm going to start now talking more and more about cryptocurrencies and how we can get involved in this and how we can become more knowledgeable about what the potential is, not only for the cryptocurrencies, but also for the blockchain technology. The blockchain technology is going to be the enabler. And I know that some of you think that, well, there isn't pure anonymity with the blockchain. And that's true in certain cases, like the way the Bitcoin is implemented. But there are other crypto projects that are out there that do provide complete anonymity. So, I mean, if that's a concern of yours, I don't particularly, for me, it's not a particular concern, but I can see how it couldn't be in certain situations. And it's a minor point. The bigger point here is that we have this new decentralized system where people are starting to embrace it. And that's the important point. More and more people are understanding the value of becoming more and decentralized, and their understanding is going to lead us down a path that is going to be something that's going to be impossible for the central banks to compete and to combat. Well, that's all I have to say. Other than that, my next video is going to be talking about how we can get more involved and more knowledgeable of cryptocurrencies, decentralized payment systems, decentralized economies, and how that can defeat the tyranny that the central bankers are proposing. That's all I've got. Thank you very much. Please give this video a thumbs up. Comment down below. I love to see the comments, and I try to respond to every single one of them. Take care. We'll see you next time.